Since the curriculum appeared, there's so much failure. Like the fail rate is very, very high.
And you know what, Ne? The thing is that they feel like just because they brought this new AS thing, is the fact that they think that just because the AS curriculum came, Ne, they think that everybody that qualifies is going to pass. You are not guaranteed. I mean, if you can get a C in grade 11, which is the old curriculum, Ne, how sure are you that on AS you can obtain better than that C that you're getting in grade 11? They should bring more opportunities and bring the curriculum back to how it was before. Now we are having all these funny problems. The teachers are they don't even understand the AS themselves. They are going to other schools to ask for teaching methods, and they are telling us that it's apparently the new first year varsity practicing us for varsity, but it's not doing us any good. Neither is it helping them. They keep telling there was a minister in the Namibian that was complaining of how they should bring the amount of money that they are putting into education should be how the kids should reflect to how we are performing. But then the thing is, they are not doing anything to change it and to change it for the better, because now we get that the curriculum changes as we grow older, but then they should do something that's acceptable for everybody and that can help everyone.
The varsities should make an opportunity, or should do something, because now they're saying that they are not accepting people without AS. So what do you expect us to do if we only qualified for grade 11s?
Yeah, and they are also not tackling the problems that we have. They're tackling some problems that it doesn't even make any sense.
Just to try and fix the problems they created. They literally create problems that they can't even fix themselves, and then we are just supposed to, I don't know, be the new world generation that creates new whatever's. It's so unfair because the resources are so scarce in Namibia itself, and then how they have this job market, and the requirements being grade 12 for a cleaner is so crazy. Like, how am I? Maybe I only have grade 9. And I really need this employment to feed my family. Like, it's just unrealistic at this point.
And also, what I wanted to say was that I think the reason why they brought up the new curriculum is because they are not able to accommodate everyone to varsities. Because you see, some of us have good points, but we are getting rejected. That's why they brought up this new thing to make it harder for people to proceed to the next level in their lives. Thank you.
Yeah, and they put unrealistic expectations on us, and I don't think it's really fair at all.
All right. We are hearing it from the horse's mouth, and that is the first horse. Now we are also going to hear from the horse's mouth. So there are two horses we are dealing with today. You, of course, Saki, you have heard it for yourself. What do you have to say?
No, yes, thank you. I've listened to the Vox box that you guys have contacted. I think it's a good initiative. It's an eye opener, and this actually just prompting or actually forcing us to elevate our strategies in terms of how best can we reach those that not those, but how best can we reach the general public to fulfill the consensus that is roaming around the whole nation. First and foremost, I should say that yes, it is a general consensus. It is a general. It is a general debate, or is it a general? What is it? It's a concern that the general public is actually showcasing across all platforms, whereby should you ask them what parliament is, they don't understand. And as parliament, we saw that there's a need for us really to gear up on the strategies that are already in place in terms of how best can we go out to the masses and have strategies that are actually going to make sure that we are reaching the grassroots level in terms of educating them on parliament and what parliament really is. Have said that, I can just make a clear distinction here what parliament really is for the general listeners to understand and for them to know what parliament is. Parliament, the word itself comes from the Latin word meaning to speak. Parliament is a place where nation speaks about its policies and laws through its elected representative. This is now where you have members of parliament that speaks on behalf of their electorates. So it is a place where the words of the people are turned into laws for the people. So Parliament of the Republic of Namibia which is where I'm coming from, consists of the two houses, which is the National Assembly and the National Council. These are also called known as Houses of Parliament. And because of the two houses, Namibia is said to have a bicameral parliament. Bicameral meaning two, which is the National Assembly, National Council. So the main purpose of the bicameral system, one should also want to know, is that the system of parliament is that laws are debated by every interested group in the country before they are passed on or thrown out. This limits the abuse of power and ensure that laws are passed for the good of the people. What am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is referring or actually trying to play back on the Vox Box as per the contributors or listeners that were actually contributing at the Vox Box. I can sense from their voices that the majority were actually youth, and this is actually one of our target audiences that we are aiming to target. I mean, that we are targeting in terms of giving them civic education, especially when it comes to parliament. The perception or the notion that the public has out there, whenever they hear about parliament, they think parliament is where members of parliament sits, they debate, they do things that are unheard for, and. I want to give a clear explanation as to what parliament is and how does you and I be part of parliament. Parliament is not necessarily just a sitting area where members of parliament sit and debate, but this is a house where voices of the voiceless or voice of the masses are brought to the house through their representative for the aim or the purpose of ensuring that there is democracy in terms of what should be heard and what should not be heard. So with that, it is very important for the general public to know that laws are not made by members of parliament. Laws are made by every individual in this country. The difference is the platform where we air these laws to be brought to parliament.
But people are saying they are not represented. They don't feel represented because they feel that there are issues that are really burning. Because a person in the street doesn't care about, quorums and, those terminologies. Mostly what they think today now is about what they are going to eat now. And it seems that across the board, they feel that they are not represented properly. It seems that the laws that are discussed in Parliament don't really relate to their immediate situation. Is that a perception perhaps correct, or is it maybe, is there any, a corner that you need to straighten somewhere?
I will not actually agree or disagree to the notion that you have just raised, but I should believe that it is a notion that is across all spectrums, where the general public has probably the same feeling, as I've clearly indicated earlier that. It's a matter of us giving a civic education to the public for them to understand. When it comes to representation, how do you assure that you are represented in parliament? This is probably the starting point where we have to educate the public as to how should I become part, or how should I assure that my voice or actually my concerns are represented in parliament. That's probably the question that we should ask. Yes, as parliament, we have a number of strategies. And as I say, that parliament is the house where democratic decisions are made holistically, and where you and I's voice is actually brought into parliament through our representative, that's now the members of parliament that we have elected. Now, how do I ensure that my voice is really reflected or actually dealt with in parliament? Remember, you can participate in the lawmaking process by utilizing different or number of avenues. Number one, since come November this year, that's when we are going to the booth and elect. That's already in its own in its own core, that's already a process of us being part of the lawmaking process. So it is very key that the youth should desist or despair from the concept of saying that they are not interested in politics simply because they don't see any good that comes out from parliament. Parliament is not for politicians only. Parliament is not for members of parliament only. Parliament is for everybody. And how do I assure that I am part of that process? It's through raising my voice by going to vote. So should you vote now, you are voting the person that you or the person of the party that you feel you want, you feel that should represent you in terms of what consensus that you want to be brought to parliament. That's number one. Number two, we also advocate, as I said, we advocate for the public participation. It's a key mandate when it comes to parliament operations. Having said that, Parliament also takes Parliament out to the public, either by members of Parliament under the Parliamentary Standing Committee conducting oversight visits where the general public is invited, either at community setups in the regions, you name them, we have a number of platforms. So we always invite the general public to these oversight visits when members of parliament are there, for them to interact or for them to actually express their feelings or their consensus directly with the members of parliament on the spot, and not necessarily for them to sideline it. So this platform are generated for the members of the public to raise their consensus either in writing or verbally. So that's another platform. Another platform that we also have in terms of encouraging public participation is a platform where we invite individuals, schools, and institutions to come to parliament so that we can give them a tour guide and also educate them on the on the values, the duties, the responsibilities of parliament. That's another platform that we have also availed. Apart from such a platform, we just don't invite schools or individuals to come to parliament. We can also come to where the individuals are. Should they have a need for parliament to come for us to go to them, that platform is also availed at parliament. So we have a number of avenues. Apart from that, we also have what we call school visit. We do visit schools now and then in the regions, whereby we do public or civic education to school-going learners, and just to educate them on what is parliament really, and how do I assure that my voice, or how do I make my contribution to be heard in parliament. Those are platforms that we are trying to iron out. And I should not forget this platform where we are now. That's also a platform that was created for us to go out into the masses and educate them on the works of parliament and how should one become a part and parcel of parliament.
Right. So, of course, don't forget that this show is brought to you, is proudly brought to you, and it's also powered by Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. And of course, now I'm seated in with Sakeus Kadhikwa from Parliament. He's a spokesperson of Parliament in National Assembly. And you can also come through in the studio. The number is 083-288-401. You can also engage him, ask him questions, and tell us, do you feel represented? Yes or no? Are you represented? If it is a yes, why do you say so? If it is no, why do you say so? So that, you can get all the answers that you need to know as far as Parliament is concerned. Of course, I can say this is your time to shine. It's time to show yourself that you really are a citizen that is responsible. Because of saying you are not interested in voting, you are not interested in politics, that doesn't help you. You need to be part of the conversation that has to do with nation building. Most people say, well, we don't even elect those people who come to parliament. They are elected by parties. We are just told to elect the party. So is this understanding a correct one?
Yes. I thought this is a. I thought that we have a segment that is going to explain in full details or in terms of how members are elected or how members becomes members of
Okay,
parliament.
fine.
But anyhow,
let me not
no.
preempt that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we have that. I think I'm quick to ask the question because this is a burning question on radio. Like today, it was going on my show, and that's why it just kicked in quickly. But maybe perhaps you can just go in shortly,
Yes.
so that when we come to explain, the people will have a better understanding from there.
Indeed. Yeah, as I said that Parliament is consisting of two houses, where you have the National Assembly and then the National Council. National Assembly, which is the lower house, this is where members of Parliament are elected through their various political party. So
we have a call online. Yes. Good evening.
Yes, Franz, good evening. How are you?
Good.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for bringing us a guest from Parliament, even though it's a wrong time because we see this is the election, yeah?
There is no wrong time. This is actually the correct time so that you know that there is election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, Franz, me, in my personal capacity, and with injustice that are happening in Namibia, I don't feel represented in this country. And what I would like to present my sentiment is, look, because it's after 34 years for democracy, and we are still blaming apartheid. And we all know that to get at advanced stage, they get there because of the state that protected them at the exclusion of black people. But now we have the constitution, we have the parliament, we have position of power. Even after 34 years of independence, 70% of our land still in the hands of the colonizer. What are we doing with the power that we have? To me, the bottom line is that we have people that are on position of power that who do not understand and internalize what to do with power. That's the bottom line.
All right, Mlemba, thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you.
Right. All right. So we want to accommodate as many people as we can. So please just keep your question and your comment very short so that also we have time for Sakeus Kadhikwa to also give in the answer. So you were saying something before I interrupted you.
Yes, I know. I was just trying to give the clear disparity between the two houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have the National Assembly on one side, where you have a representative of that house that are elected through their different party representation, while you have the National Council, where you have a representative of that house that are elected through their different various constituencies, meaning that this is where you have constituency councillors that
are okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the difference. Just in short, how we now have the disparity between who becomes a member of a member to which house. Yes.
So in other words, the other house is more of, it's more of a party that is elected, and which means the goes depending on how many seats the party gets from when it comes to the elections.
You are correct. Yes. What happens is, just for the laymen, for the men on the street to understand, what happens when we go for the presidential and national assembly election, which is now in November. What will happen prior to the election? Every political party should actually register such a party should be registered with the Electoral Commission of Namibia, and then that party should also send a list of members that they wish to be represented. That's what we call a party representation.
Okay.
A list of members of the party, of the members that will be representing them at National Assembly. So should we go now for the election, and here comes the election, we elect, depending on the number of votes that a political party has, that will determine the seats that that particular political party will have
Okay.
in the House.
Okay. Right. So that is at least clear. So we are talking about the issue of. So the question that I asked last week was, how do you? What are the mechanisms? Are there mechanisms for Parliament to bring? What is the merit that is behind knowing whether this person is performing or not, as far as the National Council is concerned, and also the National, Assembly is concerned? Is there any mechanism after the person is elected, and there are people who don't even say anything? They don't even raise a point of order, or they don't say anything. So, is there any mechanism to kind of cheer them up, or maybe bring them to book when they are not, performing?
Yes. As members of parliament, first and foremost, we should remember that you are there on behalf of the masses. You are there to represent the masses. So having said that, you are actually according the masses the respect that they have actually entrusted in you. So you are there as a representative of the masses, and that the masses will hold you accountable. How do they do that? It's now through us now going for voting, participating in voting. And another thing is that apart from them also being the representative of the people in parliament, they are also bound to adhere to the parliamentary standing rules and order. That's now a parliament book that guides them as to how one should actually be, how should one behave or operate within the framework of parliament. Secondly, every political party is actually guided by a manifesto, and then they are bound to their party's also manifestos.
Their
and
own
guidelines.
constitution and so forth.
Yes. And not forgetting the supreme law in this country, which is the constitution. Yes, they have to perform their duties within the framework of the constitution. So there's nothing is being operated in parliament without us abiding to those principles and guidelines.
Okay. So, all right. So if this person is not saying anything, is not doing anything, what happens? Or is it left at the mercy of the next election to sort him out?
Yes. Contributing into parliament, we tend to contribute in different ways. So seeing a member of parliament not contributing on that particular aspect, it's probably because they have a consensus whereby the party has agreed to contribute through an individual, and not necessarily everybody has to contribute. I should say that that's part of it. But not trying to dispute or protect why members are not participating in, should they not participate, what will happen? That's actually a discretion of an individual, knowing that what are you going to contribute? Because we must also be very conscious that we don't just want to contribute for the sake of contributing.
Yeah.
We want to contribute things that are making sense, things
That are meaningful.
Precisely. So having said that, it's probably because members are actually doing it on the discretion that they can only contribute when they are well equipped or well informed about a particular aspect. Remember that members of parliament are just people like you and I. They still need to go back on to the drawing board and do a thorough research before they can also contribute to an aspect. And this is where also the public comes in. Because remember, when bills are tabled in the House, there is an ample time given for the general public to have access to such a bill, and it's of such a way that the public can now make access to that bill and then give their contribution, their consensus, and their inputs through a member of parliament of their choice. And if we are not contributing, we are saying that this is wrong and we're not saying anything. So me as an MP or me as an individual, I will probably not have the thought of reading your mind if you're not coming to me to inform me, to speak on your behalf. That's why we have them representing the general public. Hence, I've said that we have a number of avenues where the general public can participate for them to feel that they are actually represented in parliament. So members of parliament, members of the public, should they feel that they are underrepresented, they should come in masses and then hand out their petition. That's one way of public participation. They can also do that by attending parliamentary sessions and committee meetings that are called out there, where members of parliament are actually going to address issues of bread and butter that are brought to parliament. And they can also lobby with members of parliament of their choice. There's a number of, you understand, and they can also participate in public hearings. You name them. We have a number of avenues where the public can participate. So for us to assure that my voice and your voice is actually heard, make yourself available to this to these platforms that are created or that are availed for the general public to come and air their issues, because it is meant for the public and for the public to bring their consensus, their issues to the members of parliament so that the members of parliament can raise them in parliament.
Right. It's 14 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. If you want to be part of the conversation, the number in studio is 083 288 401. If you can ask questions and make your comments, of course, just make your point. This is your time. This show is brought to you, of course, by with a compliment of course, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. And of course, I'm with Sakeus Kadhikwa, Spokesperson of Parliament and National Assembly. Right, we'll be going for a short break, and then we'll be right back to continue. Just don't change that, frequency.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You have a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
All right, we are back. So, yeah, I think, I'm not sure. I'm saying things here. Yeah, we are saying he's a spokesperson of Parliament. So, Sakeus, tell us.
I feel been humbled and promoted, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was just telling friends off that yes, Parliament, as I've clearly indicated it earlier, Parliament is a legislative branch or state of government and not necessarily an institution on its own.
Okay.
So Parliament is the legislative branch or state of government, whereby you have the two houses that are under the legislative branch of government. That's now the National Assembly, National Council. So just to correct you, I'm the spokesperson of the National Assembly. Yes, my colleague who will be joining us next week, Momli is the spokesperson of the National Council. Yes.
Right. So I'm corrected there. Because, yeah, I mean, that cuts into, you see, the problem that we have. Even myself, I'm caught into between of not understanding what Parliament really is and the distinction between Parliament and when to say Parliament and when to say National Assembly. So now, if I am caught into this dilemma, then there's so much for a person who is, who is a lay person out there. Then they have so much to understand. But also, we heard from the young people, and they are saying they don't feel represented. And of course, the caller that just called, he also doesn't feel represented. All right, we have a call. Igor FM.
Yes, good day, sir. How are you?
Good day. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Yes.
Yes, I just want to raise not a concern, but it's just a representative in terms of that. When the president takes an oath, he says that he is to uphold and defend the spiritual resources of the country of Namibia. And then he says, so help me God. In terms of that part, I just want to understand who is representing in terms of the spiritual resources. Is there any person in parliament representing Namibia in terms of that spiritual resources? And what are those spiritual resources?
Okay.
And the second, or not second question, but just to add on that one, it's also that when the president says, so help me God, which God are we referring to here, to be honest? Because we are speaking about the constitution, and he is saying, so help me God. Where does our constitution derive from? From which God is Namibia represented? I thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Your question and the point is taken.
Okay, sir.
Yes, Mr. Kadhikwa. I know this is very far into our conversation. It's not actually for today.
Yeah. Now, friends, when the public is asking this
Questions.
they are asking because the understanding is not there.
Yeah.
And I think it's just best that we listen to them and try to educate them, because
yes.
this is where we also want to pick up as to where should we go strategize in terms of educating the general public.
Yeah. What are the, you are going to sit down and find out what are the key areas and key aspects that they don't understand and how you address them.
Correct.
Yeah.
So with the caller that just asked about the presidency or the president being swearing in and taking an oath and whatnot and forth and so forth, maybe what we can do is just for them to understand first and foremost that we have what we call the separation of state powers.
Mm-hmm.
This is now a model for governance that democratic states are actually taking up.
Mm-hmm.
So with our case, with Namibia's case, we also have what we call the separation of state powers.
Mm-hmm.
We have three branches of government. Three branches of the state. That's now you have your executive, you have your legislature, and then you have your judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
That all work independently.
Yeah.
So the caller's concern is actually not a bad concern. It's not something that we can actually say that no, it's not for this platform. I think
no. What I meant was it was actually a topic that is actually ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we will divulge more on the separation of the state power in our next session. But just for them to understand that we have three branches of the state that work independently. And when you talk about the president, that's now covered under the executive branch of the state. Tonight or today, or for the purpose of this program, I think we'll be focusing more on the legislative branch of government.
Yeah, because while we are there, what confuses them is that it seems that there is a fourth leg that's somewhat, soft or intangible that is between the three. Because you hear about oaths and people say, so help me God, or you hear about, a prayer being started or affirmations. Yeah, but as I said, that is a topic that is within this discussion that will be discussed. Ahead. We we don't need to go ahead of the topic, but you can still come through with your questions. We are noting those questions, and of course they will be addressed as we go, because this is a continuous program. It's here for 3 months, and there are a lot of topics that are aligned. And today we just want to focus on Parliament.
Yes, and you are right by saying that, because as I said earlier also, that we are actually operating in the preamble or in the framework of the Constitution. And remember that Article 21 of the Constitution, which translate on the fundamental freedoms, speaks of one to practice any religious and to manifest such a practice by assembling and so forth and so forth and so forth. So maybe what we can unpack in our next session, the caller should just call in, and then we can unpack out this concept as to why do we include the religious or the prayer part in terms of when people are being sweared in.
Yeah. So, and that, of course, that is one of the topics. So now let's go back to the issue of representation, because it seems that there is a big misconception here. Because people still feel that, fine, you said that the councillors are elected from the constituencies, but still the party brings up the person they think is their candidate, and everybody who votes is they still feel like they are not really participating, because they don't go to elect the person. The very person they want to represent them is a person that is suggested by a party. Perhaps, is this a correct, or what do you say to this? What do you make of this?
Well, Franz, I think the question is actually a bit tricky for me to answer such a question, simply because as an administrator, number one, we don't speak on behalf of the operations of different political parties.
Okay.
That's one thing that I have to clarify.
Yeah.
So whatever is happening in the political atmosphere, that should be within the armpits of that political party.
All right. So just hold your thoughts. There is a call. Yes.
Franz, good evening.
Good evening.
No, I just wanted to come in with the point that to say that the three organs of the state or the government is independent is not entirely true.
Okay.
Why I'm saying that is because members of parliament, 60% of them are members of the executive. Am I right?
You are correct.
And then again, it's the same executive where the president belongs is the same person who appoints the judges who are part of the judiciary. Those things are just interconnected. So what I'm trying to say is that the system that we are using in Namibia is flawed. If Kadhikwa is saying that those three branches of government are independent, it's not entirely true. And we all know that. That's my point, Franz. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So, So now there seems to be a thin line between the practicality of these three being independent. And why do you say they are independent?
Yes. No, thank you. Why I'm saying these are independent is because of the operations in terms of how they operate.
Okay.
And as much as we have a lineup of discussions or topics that are going to be discussed, I think this will be one of the topics that we also have to be discussing in our next session.
Yes.
And we'll be coming with a team to explain more in detail or in depth as to why we are saying that they are independent.
Okay.
The caller is not wrong by saying they're not entirely independent, but to the formation of it and the operation of such branches, we regard them as independent until to a certain extent.
Okay, so there is always a certain extent open as far as their independence is concerned, of course. But we like you said, we are leaving that for a team that will come, and we said this program is continuing. All you need to do as a listener is to tune in every Tuesday from 6 to 7:30 to be able to participate, and all your participation will be very well taken. And of course, we just had 3 callers right now. You can also come through and be part of the conversation. The number in studio is 083-288-401. That's the number. Let's go back to the issue of course, you said that you don't speak on behalf of the party operations, which means there are certain things that are in the spheres or in the political party hemisphere that the administration part will not be able to tap into, of course. But we are just going to ask every question. Then you will be free to tell us and also to answer us, because this one is talk radio platform where we talk everything through. Now let's go back to the issue of participation, because most people think that when the person is quiet, he's just sitting there and no voice is ever heard from him, they think that this person is doing nothing. Because after all, the person is not saying anything, like I said at the beginning, not even a point of order, not even a point of correction. Because people think that Parliament or in the National Assembly, you just have to speak. Is there any other work that these people are doing behind doors?
Yes. Yes, thank you very much. You know that the members of parliament, it's a composition of ministers, deputy ministers, and backbenchers or non-portfolio members.
All right, just hold your thought. All right, we have lost the call there. You can continue.
Yes. So with the non-portfolio members of parliament, those that do not have portfolios or serve for any ministry or ministries or agencies, these are now what we call members of parliament that are housed at parliament from Monday to Friday, 8 to 5.
Yeah.
So what they do, they are actually been assigned or been entrusted with the oversight responsibility of parliament, or the oversight responsibility of parliament, meaning that they take out they take parliament to the people through their oversight visits. That's key, and that I think that's core to the operation and the duties and responsibilities of parliament. So this is one of the platforms where these members are actually going out to the general public to solicit input of the general public on a certain aspect of an motion that is been tabled or brought to parliament. So they don't necessarily just have to air their issue or air their view in parliament, but they can also take the motion or the bills out to the public so that they can solicit input from the general public and bring a comprehensive report back to parliament, to report back to parliament as to what they have actually found out from the general public on the ground. Hence, we are also saying that this is one of the key platforms where we advocate and advise the general public to come out in numbers should they hear that members of parliament that are carrying out an oversight duty. They should, the general public should come out in numbers, and then they should go to these people and bring their consensus to hold them accountable on the ground and to familiarize themselves and to give them the background as to what is actually unfolding with the people on the grassroots level on a day-to-day basis.
All right. Now, let's talk about standing committees of different parliament, standing committees of parliament, whether it's National Assembly or National Council on various, issues. These standing committees, how are they formed, and how do they, and to whom do they report?
Well, Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I'll talk about the parliamentary standing committees, in particular those from the National Council first.
Okay.
Yes. This is now where we are talking about as per the powers and functions of the houses, be it the National Assembly or the National Council. The Constitution has given power for these houses to establish committees and to adapt its own rules and procedures for the exercise of its power and the performance of its functions as well. A committee that of the National Assembly, we are saying that it should be entitled to conduct all such hearings and collect such evidence, and as it consider necessary for the exercise of the National Council's powers of review and investigation, and for such purpose shall the powers referred to in Article 59, subsection 3, herefore. So the committees are actually set up as per the Constitution. Power is given to the House to constitute a committee or establish a committee that has the responsibility of soliciting and actually also go out and gather or collect evidence to consider necessary exercises that the House is entrusted to do. So looking at the number of, because every house has a separate composition of parliamentary standing committee. Like with the National Council, we have a standing committee on public accounts and economy. We have a standing committee on home affairs, security, constitutional and legal affairs, that of transport, infrastructure and housing, that of education, science, ICT and youth development, a committee on agriculture, environment and natural resources, a committee on health, social welfare and labor affairs, as well as a committee on coordinated, as well as an implementation and coordination of committee. We have a number of committees at the National Council. While with the National Assembly, also have a number of committees that deals with different motions or different functions. We have a committee that deals with security aspect. That's now the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Security. You name them. So every house has its own composition of committees that are entrusted as per the Constitution to look at different aspects when motions are actually being brought into the house.
So that is the National Council side.
Yes.
Okay. Now, to whom do they report this? All of these standing committees.
The standing committees or the parliamentary standing committees, actually, every committee is actually headed by a chairperson. So the chairperson of such a committee will then assure that the work of such a committee is actually been carried out in the way that.
Just hold your thoughts there. There is a call. Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to ask a question. I wanted to know, as a young person in Namibia that maybe doesn't follow politics to the extent in which one is supposed to, because I know that many of the youth are in the same position, right? I wanted to know, how would you advise we select a president to vote for?
Okay.
What should we look at, and what constitutes as merit? Because one could say that the candidates that look like they're going to run, because we don't know who's going to run yet, right? I don't. One would say that they had a position of power and there is not much influence that they have had, or they have not done anything significant for us to consider them memorable. So if that is how I feel as a youth in this country, how would you possibly lure me into seeing things in a better perspective in terms of who I should vote for, what I should look at, and how I should look at things from a critical perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question.
You're welcome, Dr. France. Bye.
Bye. All right. So, and before did you get the question very well?
Yes, I did get the question very well.
Okay, just I tackle this question, and then we go back to the issue of the chairperson of the council.
Yes, no, indeed. You were saying this is the platform actually where we have to talk. It's how do you call it?
Talk radio.
Talk radio. Yes, talk radio.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, I'm not the right person to advocate for voting.
Yeah.
So voting is out of my my preamble or my framework.
Mm.
So maybe we can ask the politicians themselves. How do you? Yes.
Okay.
How do you lure somebody to vote you? That's something that is done out of the preamble of Parliament.
Yeah.
So in short, I think I can answer the listener in brief.
So in other words, that's not in your scope.
That's not in my
of operation.
Exactly.
Right. So now
Yes.
let's go back to the chairperson. You said the chairperson of the council.
The committees.
The committees. Every committees have the chairperson. So what happens to this chairperson?
Yes. So every committee is headed by a chairperson that is entrusted to assure and make sure that the committee's functions are actually carried over. So once the committee has now gathered or solicited input from the general public as per their mandate in terms of doing their oversight, such a committee will come back to Parliament with a comprehensive report to report back to Parliament. This is now giving back to the initiator or the mover of such a motion that this is what we have gathered from the ground. This is what the grassroots level has actually indicated to us. Yes.
All right. So now these people report to the chairperson, and then the chairperson reports to the whole house. Is that correct?
I'm not too sure when you say these people report to the chairperson.
Let me say the standing committee. Let me say a standing committee of health, for example, went to Kavango East to investigate the status quo of the hospital. And then do they come and report to the chairperson, and the chairperson reports to the house? That is now the National Council, or what happens?
Yes. What happens is a committee has a number of members, whereby within the members you have a chairperson of the committee. Yes. So it's a composition of a chairperson and members of that committee that goes out to the public.
So which means the chairperson is also part and parcel of the process of going out to the public.
The chairperson is in layman's term, I would say that it's sort of like a principal person, the head of the delegation. He's regarded as the chairperson. The head of the delegation is regarded as the chairperson of such a committee.
Yeah.
That actually is entrusted to report back to Parliament.
Okay.
Mind you that we don't want now every member of the committee to come and report to Parliament, but it's the responsibility is entrusted
to the
chairperson or the deputy chairperson in the absence of the chairperson.
Yeah. Okay, because we are asking this question so that a lay person can understand what the functions really are. And it is 14 minutes past the hour of 7. We still have 16 minutes together. But before that, let's go for a short break. We'll be right back to continue. Just stay tuned.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not a fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build. Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
ipuranengeno wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondo tutoingida ashike kapeno nwe udite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshefa ili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile poshiwana onongeshefa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna emitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi kayo loka opone ushendife nawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe bali heari nola natu heari bali no heari ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM
All right. So now we come back. Now, it seems that every road nowadays has a bridge. We just want to understand the bridge between the administration part of Parliament and how can I call this one? The actual Ghana's as far as National Assembly and National Council is concerned. What is that bridge? How do you people work together?
Yes. As I spoke about the structure of Parliament itself, you have the administrative staff members.
All right, just hold your thought. There is a call. Yes. Good evening.
Good evening once again.
Yes.
First, I would just like to thank the Parliament for such a platform.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really listen to the radio, but today I believe in a long run. First time I opened the radio, I came upon this platform, and I really think it's a great one. I was the previous caller who called on regarding the president off, but I'll wait for the right platform to engage on that one. So my second question was just regarding when it comes to the politicians themselves or to the members of parliament, do the parliament avail security for members of parliament, or do they have to outsource for themselves
their own security?
Their own security protection.
Okay.
Speaking to what just happened recently, so I'm just trying to find out, does the parliament protect its members, or should the members protect themselves? Because I know we do have the police and then all that, and in terms of manpower and also the elections that we are looking at, is the provisions made for members of parliament to be protected when they are exercising their electoral rights, or when they are doing their work out there in the public?
All right.
Thank you. That is my question.
Okay. Before you go, since you said you don't listen to radio, this program is weekly. It's on every Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes, it's on every Tuesday from 6 o'clock, to 7:30. You can tune in and have your viewpoints heard by various members of parliament that will be part of this conversation.
Okay. Do you perhaps have already a program set for what will be discussed in every Tuesday for the next 3 months? Or
Yes.
It will only be.
No,
Okay.
you will be informed accordingly. Just keep checking our social media page.
I will surely do that.
You will be informed beforehand.
Thank you very much, Mr. Is it Franz, correct?
Yes, France.
Okay. No, thank you very much, and Mr. Kadhikwa, thank you once again for coming on this platform. I am really happy, and I will surely tune in every Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. So we are continuing. So you were making a point before I interrupted you.
Yes, I was just trying to explain in terms of the structure where you have politicians or members of parliament,
Yeah.
and then you have the staff or support staff that actually are part of the establishment of the of parliament. We work in we work collectively together.
Okay.
Simply because you should be mindful that, as I've said, that members of parliament, especially those that are not non-portfolio members, these are staff members of parliament simply because they are housed at parliament, and they are regarded as employees there as well because they have offices there, and then they also account in terms of administrative duties to the secretary, who is the high personnel when it comes to administrative duties of parliament. So we have that working relationship.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, to the question that the caller asked, what happens? Do they have their own security, or does Parliament provide security for their members? What is the security framework for the members of Parliament?
Yes, as security is concerned, Parliament has a mandate, or in fact, we have a division, a security division that is therefore to assure or to accord every member of Parliament within the premises of Parliament with security. That is there. That component is there. They are actually taken care of when it comes to security aspect. We make sure that members within the premises of the presence of the building of parliament, they're actually protected in that aspect. So beyond than that, we don't have the mandate. I should not. I cannot speak on what happens outside parliament.
Okay,
Because
so
our mandate is actually to look at what happens within
in the Parliament.
Precisely.
So outside there, in other words, we can say, well, everybody, Rome is Rome. Outside you, whether you are in Rome, is Rome. So you are on your own.
We should really not say Rome is Rome. Yeah, but the general practice is that they are protected, and then they are also accorded with that respect as members of parliament. So it is a key component to us, and it is part and parcel of our working ethics to make sure that they are actually given the protection that they deserve within the prefects of the institution.
Okay. Okay. Now, the issue of Parliament is very complex, it seems, because there are a lot of things we need to understand. It seems we can say that the staff of Parliament, they are not politicians. But of course, we are human beings. And you might have staff that are members of this or that political party. How do you balance this to kind of avoid, conflict of interest? Because these members of staff are not, part of the and parcel of what discussion in Parliament. To what extent can they or can they not involve themselves in the parliamentary, or indulge themselves in Parliament, National Assembly or National Council proceedings?
Yes, as staff members as staff members of the National Assembly or as staff members of Parliament, we bind ourselves to the staff rules, the public service staff rule. And the staff rule has a component that speaks about, to show that you are actually of a political party being a non-partisan. That's one aspect that you need to adhere to. So we behave in such a way that we comply to what the public service, to what the Public Service Act is saying. So we don't want to work or to behave in outside the preamble of what the be it the Labor Act, because that's also one of the guiding components that guides us as to how should one behave in a workplace. Yes. So we have a number of administrative guidelines that guide us and that hint us also not to practice or to show or to be non-partisan when we are in a workplace. The same concept also happens when members of parliament are actually also going to the chamber. They are also the staff rule is also saying that, or the parliamentary standing committee rule. I mean, the parliamentary standing rule is also guiding them or actually giving them hints as to how should they behave in a form of them not trying to to show off that they're of the political party in terms of intimidating staff members and whatnot.
And so forth.
Yes.
But it seems that it could really be tricky here, because is it really easy to maintain neutrality? I mean, to pretend you don't have a venom when you have. Can it be really? I mean, it's in the nature of a snake to bite. How easy is being neutral?
I will not say that. I will not say that it is. What is it? It is a bit difficult for you to show off that you are of a certain political party, but there are platforms, there are avenues where you can exercise your rights in terms of showing off from which political party you are involved. But from my point of view, as an administrator or as the a staff member of parliament, I should behave in an accord way that actually does not that will show neutrality in terms of my operation. So it is very important that when you are in a workplace, you behave in such a way that you are guided by the staff rule, and you have to do it or abide to what the staff rule is saying. And when it comes to political issues, obviously, yes, I mean, we don't exercise, we hardly hear of a political party at the office that is actually trying to campaign within the premises of parliament. So there are limitations as to where should one actually practice their true identity, as to say, if that's the right word to use, as to indicate as to which party are you affiliated to. They are guiding rules as to how one should behave in a workplace. I mean, not just at parliament. I mean, every institution. I think there are those grand rules, or there are those rules that guides you not to behave out of the scope of what work is required to you to do.
Well, so that also means that you don't come to work in your party fully loaded in party regalia. Do you have a standardized way of identity in terms of clothing, or you leave it up to the individual, except that they don't wear their party flags?
Yeah, no, the staff, as I said, the staff rules will guide us when it comes to how should one behave, and that's one of the rules, or that's one. It's unfortunate I don't have it in front of me. I could have read from the staff rule itself what it says when it comes to party colors or how to dress. So there is a thin line, though, as to how one should behave, simply because I have a phrase that I always use, that we leave politics to politicians. And if you are a seasonal politician, I mean, you don't practice such an activity at work because you are a seasonal politician.
Yeah.
So you leave it to politicians to do it at their platforms where they are actually authorized to do that. Yes.
Right. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough, though, one could argue to say, well, it is really a challenge to hide your identity for a long time. One day, something will just come out. But, of course, our time has actually almost come to the end. We only have 1 minute. So can I just allow you to say your last words before we just say goodbye and end this conversation for today.
Yes. No, thank you very much. I think I should actually acknowledge the platform that was availed to Parliament by CAS. This was an initiative that we're really looking forward to. And since now the opportunity has been availed to us, we are continuously going to work very hard to make sure that we are going to educate every citizen in this country, and not necessarily just because it's the election year. Mind you that Parliament has nothing to do with election. We don't campaign, we don't contest. I mean, we don't also advocate for election, because that's now where politicians has to come in, and then that's where the Electoral Commission of Namibia has to come in. But our duty as Parliament is to educate and to sensitize the general public out there, for them to understand what are the duties of Parliament and how should I become, how should I bring my voice across for Parliament to air my voice. Remember, Parliament is a state which is actually the legislative state of government, where laws are being brought in and debated about. But that does not necessarily mean it's only for members of Parliament. Parliament is for the people, by the people, where you and I's voice is actually expected to be brought to Parliament, so that the parliamentarians can then actually debate on what you're saying. Very importantly, should we despair or should we desist away from activities of Parliament, you are actually just hiding in your voice, and your voice will be actually being not your voice, but your point will be overpowered by a different person's view. So it is important that every person in this country should actually participate in the activities of Parliament for their voices to be added. That's now what we call advocating for public participation when it comes to lawmaking process. Everybody is part of the lawmaking process. We can all make laws through voting, as I've mentioned. By airing your vote, you are making a decision as to who your leaders, or who are the leaders that you want to represent you, who are you voting to represent you, either in Parliament or at whatever level it is. That can only be done through the democratic exercise of voting. It's very important that we have that out there to the public. Secondly, I've mentioned about the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which is the core responsibilities or functions of members of Parliament, whereby you can now also interact with members of Parliament by airing your views, your voice, your consensus directly to the members of Parliament, so that they can be brought to Parliament. So we have a number of platforms. We want everybody to make use of the platforms that are created or that are already established. Lastly, at Parliament, all our sessions are actually live streamed by NBC television and aired also on our social media platform. These are platforms that we also encourage the general public, should they feel that there's a need for them to understand and know what Parliament really is. They can make use of those platforms. And very importantly also, we have a website where we have recently added a feedback button where we can interact directly with the public, so the public can make use of that platform to air and give their contribution across, so that we can also bring it to the attention of the members of Parliament of their choice. So the choice is in the public's hand, the ball is in their court. Thank you.
For those who don't have website and they can't watch, you come to Eagle FM every Tuesday and you listen, and you can also call in and have your voice heard. Of course, this has been the show, and this show, don't forget, is brought to you by Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, of course, working together with the Eagle FM and Parliament to make sure that you understand, you're educated on what Parliament is. And from me, France, that has been, of course, the anchor on this platform. And of course, thank you very much, Sakeus Kadhikwa, for coming. And also from Petrus Ipadi, who has been behind all this. That's the reason why you can see my face. Is behind all these technical issues. sorting them out. Of course, my thanks to him. And have a good night. See you again next Tuesday.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that doesn't have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.